Hello friends, welcome to Sociology for competitive exams. In this video, I'm going to talk about the various types or forms of marriage and the various rules of marriage. Sociology has categorized the various forms of marriage which is followed universally and the rules and regulations of marriage uh, which is very familiar with Indian society as well as other part of the world. To make this video, I referred this three standard study material, IGNO family, marriage, kinship study material, especially Unit 8. Then NCRT history book, class 12th. Third theme, kinship, caste and class. Third is Britannica Encyclopedia. It is actually a website. To get clear understanding on this topic, you may refer these references. Now let's get started. Moving on to the meaning of marriage. Make sure you watch this video fully and not skipping it, because every slide in this video is very important. I put up a lot of effort to make this toughest topic in a simplest way so that the viewers can easily understand this complex topic. So I request you to like this video and ask your questions if you have any. If you do so, many viewers will get this video as suggestions through the YouTube artificial intelligence. So I hope you will do that. Now let's get started. Meaning of marriage. First, we will see the meaning of marriage, then definition of marriage, then forms and types of marriage. Later, we'll discuss about the rules of marriage. Marriage can be defined as socially acknowledged and approved sexual union between two adult individuals. When two people marry, they become kin to one another. The kinship in sociology can be categorized into two. One is consanguineal and affinal. Consanguineal is from the blood relatives, example father and mother, and father and son, daughter, mother, son and daughter. It made up of blood, so it is called as consanguineal kin. Second is affinal kin. It is from marriage. Once you get married, you will get new relatives. That relatives are come under affines or affinal kin. Now moving on to the definition of marriage. The famous sociologist Robert H. Louis defines that it is a relatively permanent bond between permissible mates. Second sociologist is Malinowski. He is also an anthropologist. He says that marriage is a contract for the protection and maintenance of children. Sociologists usually use this triangle symbol for male and this equal symbol for marriage, this circle symbol for female. So when we use this is equal to, which means man marries woman. Now moving on to the important slide, the various types or forms of marriage. Sociologists categorize the types of marriage into three: monogamy, cenogamy, and polygamy. Apart from these three different forms of marriage, we have bigamy. It is actually a legal term. If a person is marrying another person who is already married without getting divorced, that is called bigamy. It is punishable offense in India. Now we'll see four different forms of monogamy: serial monogamy, non-serial monogamy, cross-cousin marriage, and parallel cousin marriage. These two different forms of marriage also will come under rules of marriage that we will discuss in the last slide. Next form of marriage is cenogamy. Third is polygamy. It has two different forms: polyandry and polygyny. Now moving on to monogamy. Mono means a single. It is a Greek word. Game is also derived from Greek word gamy, which means marriage. Monogamy is very familiar among Hindu, Gond, Santal, Oravan, Kadars, Santals, Kasi, Kannada, Hopi, Iraqis, Andaman Islanders, and Vedas of Ceylon and Sevangas of Malay. Monogamy has four different forms. First is serial monogamy. In this marriage, a man gets married to another woman only after the death of his first wife. If the second wife died, he will marry third woman. If the third wife is died, he will go for fourth. It will continue until he dies. So this is called serial monogamy. Once the first wife is died, he will marry another woman. Then if the second is died, third and fourth and fifth and sixth, it will continue. So it is called serial monogamy. Next is non-serial monogamy. In this case, a man gets married to a woman and stays with each other till she or he dies. So this is very familiar among Hindus in India. Next is cross cousin marriage. In this marriage, a man marries his mother's brother's daughter or his father's sister's daughter. Also, a woman marries mother's brother's son or father's sister's son. It is called cross cousin marriage. It is familiar among Kharia and Oravan. Finally, we have parallel cousin marriage. In this marriage, a man marries to his mother's sister's daughter or father's brother's daughter. Also, in this marriage, a woman marries father's brother's son or mother's sister's son. This type of marriage is familiar among Carder tribes. Now, let's move on to Cenogamy. Cenogamy is also a form of marriage. Ceno means common or group. Gamus means marriage. This type of marriage is familiar among tribes of New Guinea and Africa. So in this form of marriage, group of individual will marry the group of individuals, especially group of men will marry a group of women. Each man of the group is considered to be the husband of every woman of the female group. Similarly, every woman is the wife of every man of the female group. So in this group, any individual, especially any man, can have a relationship with other women who is the part of this group. This is the second form of marriage, polygamy. Poly is also a Greek word which means many. Game is also a Greek word which means marriage. This polygamy is familiar among Arabs, Christian sects, and tribes. In this marriage, one man will marry two or more women, or one woman marry two or more men. So it has two different forms, polyandry and polygyny. Further, polyandry has two different forms, fraternal adelphic polyandry, non-fraternal non-adelphic polyandry. Next we have polygyny. It has two different forms, serial sororal polygyny, non-serial non-sororal polygyny. Now I will discuss what is fraternal adelphic polyandry. As I said, polyandry means a woman marry more than one man. We know the meaning of poly. Poly means more than one. Andry is also a Greek word which means men. So we can easily understand polyandry, which means a woman marry more than one man. It has further two different forms, fraternal and adelphic polyandry. In fraternal adelphic polyandry, husband of one wife are either brothers or related to each other through blood relatives. Example, this form of marriage familiar among Todas and Kasis. Next is non-fraternal or non-adelphic polyandry. So in this case, the husbands of one wife are not brothers, are not related to each other through blood. This type of polyandry is familiar among Nayars of South India. Now, getting into the next form of marriage, it is part of polygamy. It is called polygyny. Poly means more than one, gyny means more than one woman. So, in this form of marriage, one man will marry more than one woman. It has two different forms, serial or sororal polygyny and non-serial or non-sororal polygyny. In this marriage, co-wives are the multiple wives of the man or sisters. Sororal means sisters in Greek word. So in this case, the wives of a particular man would be the sisters. This form of marriage is familiar among Gond and Carrier tribes. Next is non-serial or non-sororal polygyny. In this case, co-wives of the particular man are not sisters. one wife may come from other family or other tribe or other village. So this type of marriage is familiar among Noyers. Now we are moving on to the rules of marriage. Rules can be categorized into prohibitive rules and prescriptive or preferential rules. There are 5 prohibitive rules and 4 prescriptive or preferential rules, namely incest taboo, exogamy, endogamy, hypergamy, it is also known as Anuloma, hypogamy, it is also known as Pratiloma. Next, we have parallel cousin marriage, cross cousin marriage, and levirate, finally sororate. Further, this levirate and sororate has 3 different forms of rules, and sororate has 2 different forms of rules that we will discuss in the upcoming slides. As I said in the very first slide, uh, parallel cousin marriage and cross cousin marriage also will come under types of marriage under polygamy. Now let's get started from the prohibitive rules. Prohibitive rules are based on the religious norms and local customs. It will vary from one religion to another religion, region to region, country to country, continent to continent. First prohibitive rule for marriage is incest taboo. What is incest taboo? Incest implies that restriction on sexual or marital relationship between two persons. Taboo is a negative word which has restriction on something. So in incest taboo, father will not marry daughter, mother will not marry son, or brother will not marry sister, or sister will not marry brother. Marriage among cousins are restricted in this rule, and marriage with mothers, brother, and father, sister, brothers also restricted in this rule. This kind of rule familiar among Hindus of North India. Next prohibitive rule is exogamy. Exo means outside, gamy means marriage. So in this form of rule, one individual can only marry the outside the family, outside the kinship, outside the clan, outside the village, or outside the other group. So they cannot marry inside the family, inside the kinship, inside the family. They can only marry outside the kinship, outside the family, outside the clan, outside the village. Next form of rule is endogamy. So endo means within and gamy means marriage. One individual can marry only inside the social group, which means inside the tribe or caste, inside the religious group. But endogamy will not happen in clan in the most cases. Example, in endogamy, one individual from the tribe will marry only within the tribe. Caste people will marry only in the same caste. In Muslim community, we have 2 different sects, Shia sect and Sunni sects. In Shia sects, they will marry only Shias. Sunni sects will marry only Sunnis. In also Christianity, we have Roman Catholics and Protestants. Protestants will marry only Protestants. Roman Catholics will marry only Roman Catholics. This is one of the rules of marriage under endogamy. Apart from that, caste in India are endogamous groups, but intercaste and intervarna marriages in ancient times were permitted under the rule of hypergamy and hypogamy. Now we'll know what is hypergamy and hypogamy. Hypergamy, it is also known as Anuloma. In this marriage, a lower caste girl will marry a upper caste boy. A Brahmin boy can marry a girl from any lower caste or varna. It is called hypergamy or Anuloma. Next is hypogamy. It is also known as Pratiloma. In this case, a girl from higher caste will marry a boy of lower caste. Such marriages were not encouraged in traditional Indian society. Anyway, it was not possible for a Brahmin girl to marry a lower caste or Varna boy and get acceptance from the society. Next is prescriptive or preferential rules. First is parallel cousin marriage, as we discussed in the initial slide. Parallel cousin marriage is a marriage of a man with his mother's sister or his father's brother's daughter. It is familiar among Muslims and Qadar tribes. Such marriage is exception to the rule of clan exogamy. Next is cross cousin marriage. As we discussed in the previous slide, cross cousin marriage is a marriage of a man with his father's sister's daughter or his mother's brother's daughter. Also, a marriage of woman with her mother's brother's son or her father's sister's son. This is called cross cousin marriage. It has preferential rules. Can marry cross cousins. This kind of marriage is familiar among Gonds of Madhya Pradesh and Oran, Kharia tribes of Jharkhand, Maharashtra, South Indian Hindus. Next form of rule is levirate. Levirate is a marriage. It is also known as a type of remarriage. In this rule, a widow marries her husband's brother once her husband is died. This type of marriage is familiar among Toda of Nilgiri hills. They are tribes. This levirate has three different forms: junior levirate, senior levirate, anticipatory levirate. Finally, we have sororate as a prescriptive rule of marriage. In this marriage, a widower marries the younger sister of his deceased wife. So this type of marriage is familiar among tribes of central India such as Gonds and Baiga tribes. It has two different forms. One is restricted sororate and simultaneous sororate. In restricted sororate, one man marries his wife's sister after his wife's death. Next is simultaneous sororate. In simultaneous sororate, without marrying the person's wife's sister, she will automatically become his wife. So this is called simultaneous sororate. The man will marry a woman. If she is having sister, she will be considered automatically as his wife. So this type of rule is followed by some tribes of various parts of the world. I hope this video is very informative. If you feel a little difficult to understand, I recommend you to listen to this video twice or thrice. If you want to listen this video in Tamil, make sure you subscribe to Sociology in Tamil. I'll be uploading a lot of videos on sociology in Tamil. Also watch my other videos. For more new videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll meet you in the next video. This is Mohammed signing off.